Hello? Testing. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hi. Okay, I think we're live now. We're going to learn some really cool stuff about Photoshop in the next few lessons, but I'm going to keep the lessons really short so that you don't get bored like I do. And plus, that way, yeah. But I'm going to turn this over to John because my voice gives out if I do.
Jeez, enough of that. Okay, Photoshop. Here we go. I'm assuming you guys know how to open Photoshop. Once it's open, you have a lot of stuff to deal with. I'm going to make this really straightforward and as basic as I can. I'm going to probably teach you about these buttons as we use them in projects. I'll teach you about this business as it shows up. Yours may not look exactly like mine. There's a quick way to take care of that. Click on Window, click on Workspace, click on Automation. All right, and when you're done, you should look pretty much like I do. You may not have all these little guys right here. Those are little ones that I have downloaded. I'll be providing them for some of you that I've already spoken to. The rest of you, well, you are on your own. All right, first thing you're going to notice is we've got a bunch of buttons on this side. We've got a bunch of menus up here. We've got a bunch of stuff over here, and it all looks really overwhelming, and you might just think, oh my God, I've got to go lie down for a while. But trust me, it's really, when it comes to photo editing, you probably only use about 15–20% of all of these different crazy things up here. You'll notice as we go through all of this business right here that everything is gray. The reason that it is gray is because you have to upload a picture, or open a picture in this case. So we can open a picture by going File, Open. I'm a huge believer in using these little commands over here. This is holding down your Command key, hitting the letter O will do exactly the same thing. By the way, Command on Mac is the same thing as Control on a PC. So we're going to open, and I'm going to open an image called Water, and there you go. Now if you notice, I still have all this distracting background. That's something about CS4 that I don't care for. So I'm going to drag the lower right corner. I'm going to pull it all the way out here. Now today's, this short little mini lesson is basically, whoops, hang on. This short little mini lesson is basically all about adjusting your image for color, saturation, so on and so forth. So it'll be pretty short, sweet, and to the point. But a couple buttons you need to know. First of all, this little arrow button right here allows you to move this image around if you need to. You probably won't unless you have a much larger image than I do. We can talk about resizing images in lesson 2. Right now, you also need to know this little button on the bottom, which is your zoom button, which lets you zoom into an image or zoom out. To zoom out, you hold down your Option key, which is also known as your Alt key, and out you go. It's that simple. Now, let's go ahead and look really quick at some quick ways to adjust the entire image. This isn't adjusting little pieces like the dodging and burning. We'll get to that in a whole separate lesson. Adjusting the entire image comes up here under Image Adjustments. We have all different kinds of ideas. We can adjust our brightness and contrast. You'll get a little menu and little sliders. As you run your sliders back and forth, your contrast and everything adjusts. I'm going to hit cancel right now because there isn't anything there I want to do. You can also adjust your levels. Levels is like brightness and contrast, but it adds an extra little element called a midtone. When you adjust a midtone, you can get darker, lighter. You can adjust your shadows, darker, lighter, or you can adjust your highlights. Your highlight is, of course, the white one, your midtone is the gray one, and your shadow is the black one. Now, let's say that you do a bunch of adjusting and you start playing around with this whole thing and you decide, you know what, I really don't like exactly what I did. Can I get everything back to the way it was originally? That's easy. Just hold down your Option key or your Alt key, and then you will notice this little cancel button changes to reset. Click on it with your mouse and everything resets back to normal. If you click here under Options, you get the choice of monochromatic, enhancing channel contrast, light and dark colors, snap neutral midtones, all kinds of crazy business. Now, the other option, of course, is auto. Let me go ahead and reset this, and you can get auto levels. Now, a quick way to get auto levels, of course, too, is if you don't want to go through all this and you just want to go straight to auto levels, you can go, hold down your Shift key, hold down your Command key or your Control key, and then hit the letter L. We'll do exactly the same thing for you. So now I've done some adjusting to the entire image. Another way to adjust is curves and exposure. I rarely do much with these. If you want to explore them, you can. Vibrance, of course. If you pull your vibrance up, It gives your picture much more in the way of depth of color and intensity of color. You can throw your saturation way up if you want. I tend to aim for more saturated images than probably some people, but that's just a personal preference. Image adjustments. I wouldn't worry about color balance, black and white, photo filter. If you want to go with black and white, this will turn you, actually, yeah, let's look at black and white. Black and white will turn your whole image black and white. Now, if you notice, we have a bunch of presets here. This is what I go through. You can have your blue filter, and so on and so forth. I don't need to read all these to you, but as you go through and you play with them, you'll notice they give you all kinds of different types of black and white pictures. Once you have what you like, you can then save it, and you're good to go. And we'll talk about saving stuff here in a minute. So once you hit the one you like, then hit OK. So let's say that I'm going through here and I decide that I'm going to go with a high contrast red filter. I click OK. And then I say to myself, self, I don't like what I did. I want to undo it. You can undo by going Edit, Undo Black and White. You can also hold down your Command key and hit the letter Z and do the same thing. Let's see, other image adjustments. Photo filters. This simulates camera filters. I don't use these very often, but every now and then, if it's something you're interested in, knock yourself out and enjoy what you end up with. I think the reason I don't use them is because I don't see color enough to make it worth my time. Posterize, invert, threshold, gradient map, selective color. Rarely use those because those are really, really intense, insane things that you would use. You wouldn't use them in general photo editing. Here's an example. That would be why. Command Z, undo. Shadows and highlights, if you want, this one knocks all of your shadows lighter, all of your highlights darker, so you end up with an image that looks like that. And then you can play around with it as you like. I don't use that one very much either myself. Again, your preference. Desaturate is the same thing as black and white. I don't know why they left that in there unless you just want to do a straight desaturate and not worry about things. And then, of course, you can match and replace color. We don't need to worry about those for what we're doing. Equalize, we don't need to worry about. Here's one that's kind of fun. It's called variations. If you click on this, you have your choice of adjusting your shadows, your midtones, or your highlights, or just the saturation of the entire image. If you're adjusting, you can adjust for more yellow, more green, so on and so forth. Again, I don't use it much, but some people do. If you take the slider right here and you drag it over, it will make your adjustments really intense. Obviously, if you drag it the other way, the adjustments will be much finer. Let's say that we're going to take the saturation on this thing, pump it up a little bit, and there you have it. Let's say you say to yourself, I think I pumped that up too much. I'd like to fade it back a little bit. That's really easy to do. Up under Edit, you can pull back to Fade Variations. You now get a slider, and you can slowly slide the contrast back to something that you really liked. And there you go. When you're completely done with this overall image editing and you're ready to save, the first thing you'll need to do, and just depending on what you've done, is you might need to go to Layer and pull down to Flatten Image. If it's gray, then that means you don't have to do it. In our case, we don't. And then you're going to say File. I like to save as. Again, it's your choice. Save as means I still have my untouched original, and I now have my edited original. So I'm going to say Save As, and we're going to call this Water Recolored. I'm then going to make sure this little guy right here says JPEG, and then I'm going to hit Save. I have choices. I can do 12 from 0 to 12. This is how fine of a picture you want your final image to be. I leave everything either 10, 11, or 12. 99% of the time I leave it at 12. It doesn't seem to affect uploading or any of that kind of crazy business. Hit OK, and you have a newly clean edited image to work with. Hope you enjoyed.